For me, I got kind of the side hustle bug a couple years probably into my job, the current job that I have. I just wasn't finding a lot of fulfillment. It was just like soul crushing. I was just, I have to do more, and my mom would say, you can't leave that job. That would be crazy, and I'm like, but I'm so unhappy. Hello and welcome back to Health Hustlers Happy Hour. We are on episode number 3. I am Jaclyn and I'm a copywriter to online health coaches.
And I'm Jackie. I'm a behavioral scientist turned health habits coach. And today's topic is something that Jaclyn and I have been talking about for so long. We constantly go back and forth. And it's all about how to essentially manage our mindset around working full time and having a side hustle. And so I think today what we want to get into is giving you a high level view of how our day-to-day looks like, but also really talking about how to, switch from these different modes that we're in. We're switching from full-time work to side hustle work and how that can really actually mess with your mind a little bit. So I hope you stick around. This is one of our favorite topics to discuss, and we're still trying to figure it out. But I think this could be something that will really help all of you in navigating these waters. So, Jaclyn, why don't we start with you talking about the high level, what your day-to-day looks like in terms of just how you're kind of doing both things at once.
Yeah. So I have recently, once I started really considering copywriting as a legit side hustle rather than a hobby, I started to take advantage of some scheduling opportunities that I have within my company that allow me to kind of focus on my corporate job in the morning. And then I can kind of switch over later in the afternoon and work on some copywriting stuff. And then I also was able to set my schedule up so that I have Mondays off every other week. So that's really helped because I do struggle putting on the two hats, switching back and forth, especially because my corporate job is very analytical, repetitious, and copywriting is so creative. So it has definitely been a struggle, but the way I've set up my schedule really does allow me to make that switch.
That makes sense. Yeah, that context switching it's so hard.
Yes.
So hard. And it's nice that because you work pretty much from home full time, except for one day a week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that probably helps too, I imagine. But and are you kind of I know you're in your office right now. Do you find to switch rooms in your house to context switch, or what are you kind of doing when you context switch?
Yes. So as you can see behind me, I have my other job set up behind me. And so I am facing that direction when I'm doing that work. And then I am able, if I'm on a break or if I take a lunch, or if I'm done with my day there, I swing back over and I have my writing table behind me, and my laptop set up. Sometimes I do find it hard to just obviously switch over it, and I'll take my laptop somewhere else in the house just for a little creative spark. But it's been working decently so far. So how about yourself?
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you have the two setups. And I wish I could say the same. That's actually my husband's setup. For me, context switching involves, I work a lot of places in my house. So I guess I'll kind of go back to with me, my full-time job, it's a traditional 9 to 5 for sure in terms of, I do kind of like Jaclyn, the mornings I spent working on my side business, on my health coaching business. And then I'm trying to make sure that by 9 o'clock, I'm on my laptop, my work laptop for my full-time job. and dedicating, just it's really hard. I think for me, it like bleeds together. I like really want to, I get into flow state very easily. But I think because I've been doing my research job for so long, I'm also very efficient at it. And so it's just a matter of making sure that I'm not getting distracted. I'm managing, essentially. I'm managing like, what is my work life this week? I think it's all about planning. Like my Sundays are dedicated to looking at my calendar and like making sure like I've got myself set up. And then I think in terms of the context, like the environmental switching piece of it, I have my office here. I've got my standing desk in here. I also have a kind of like a treadmill desk set up in my garage, and I'll work in there sometimes. And I also set up my kitchen countertop a lot and work. And then I've got lots of different devices. So I've got like my iPad. Obviously, I've got my phone. I've got I have another personal laptop that I use. So I think having those different devices and different environments do help with context switching, and also just giving me an opportunity to get more creative in certain spaces. And I think, I don't know, like I personally, like my company is trying to make people go back into the office, but I really love working from home. And I do feel like it's enabled me to be very efficient at my corporate job, while also being able to do this. And it gives me so much joy and satisfaction. So like when these companies are like, everyone needs to come back into the office, I have a really hard time with that. So I get like they want people to be social, and they probably don't want people, doing what we're doing right now. I'm guessing that's like the main reason they actually want people to come into the office.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like I'm someone that really enjoys being productive, and I measure my worth based on like how much stuff I've gotten done during the day. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's the days that I do go into the office, those are dedicated days for my corporate job. And there would definitely be a void in my life if I couldn't have this creative outlet and do this thing for myself. So, and we've talked about this as well, while we really, really appreciate our full-time jobs for what it does provide us, which is ability to pay bills. And for me, my husband is a small business owner, so we get our health insurance through my corporate job. It's just not that, it's not my passion. And so, yeah, working from home definitely allows for a lot more time for that. So yeah, I'm on the same page as you. It would suck to have to go back to the office every day.
I know. Well, and yeah, kind of, along those lines of like this dichotomy, right? Of like, okay, you got the corporate full-time job, pays the bills, and then you've got this side hustle that, we have these side hustles that really bring a lot of joy. Like, I think, I want to kind of go back for both of us and talk about like, I know for me, like COVID was the moment where I finally was like, because I was basically like a glorified workaholic at my full-time corporate job pre-COVID. I was, just not, I don't know if I was obsessed, but like, I don't know, like I felt like that was my identity. Right. And I think that's a lot of us, like we grew up with parents that their identity was their corporate job. But I've experienced personally so many moments in my full-time corporate career that were just so icky. And made me realize, and I think COVID helped me actually slow down and realize like, I'm appreciative of the paycheck. I think for me, I was just giving that job so much time and effort. And the payback was not a lot, like maybe a promotion here and there, but like the realization, like at one point that I was not getting paid, I was like being underpaid for years of my career. And luckily had like a really nice manager when I switched teams that pointed that out to me. And I don't know if he was being nice or it was just a requirement. Maybe it was just a requirement, but made it seem like he was the hero in that moment. So I just, I think for me, it started to like really wear on me and made me just realize like, hey, like maybe there's a reality where I don't have to my identity doesn't have to just be wrapped up in this full-time job, but I can still do a good job. And I think that mindset for me was the big shift. And then that's what enabled me to like realize like that I could do this health coaching, because I just kept coming back to it. For a long time, I was like, I know I want to do something with health and fitness. And actually, I started looking for like on LinkedIn, like, is there behavioral scientists like that can do health coaching? And I just couldn't find anything. And so that was where I was like, I think I'm just gonna have to create this.
Yeah.
And I know jobs exist, but like again, it's a job and it's also doing it for someone else's bottom line. And so I think for me, I was just like, I think I can, I've worked in corporate for 10 plus years, more than that, like 15 years. And I'm like, I've learned a lot of skills. I changed careers. And so I was like, why can't I do this? And so that was like that mental shift here. And I think because it was hard, it's hard to like give up on that. Like, oh, like this is, this corporate job is my identity. It takes a while to peel away from that. But I think that gave me more mental space and capacity to believe in myself to do something outside of that. And it's really, I think it's a really healthy thing. And I wish, and I hope that corporate companies actually start to embrace those types of mindsets, because it actually, for me at least, it helped me become more emotionally stable at work in terms of like when business decisions are made, I wouldn't like throw a fit about it. I wouldn't like get so like questioning about it. I'm like, okay, like this is just, there's other people above me that know that get paid for this decision making, and I'm just not going to like raise, I'm not going to be a barrier for them anymore. And I think I used to be that. And it was probably like I was a pain in the ass employee. Like, what does she want now? And so it has helped now. Like, I think it's probably helped where I'm just like, all right, cool. And for me mentally, it's definitely helped. So anyway, I rambled on, but that was.
No, I love hearing the story. What was the question though? Where did it start?
Yeah, maybe where it started, because I think I was talking about COVID, right? And that was where I started to like get this confidence and that I could do, I don't know, do something different.
Something more, change your identity. For me, I got kind of the side hustle bug couple years probably into my job, the current job that I have. I just wasn't finding a lot of fulfillment. And I was one person in a sea of 350, I think, that did the same job I did. And I've just always been a pretty creative person. And I was in a cubicle, just pumping out productivity. Literally pulling work from a queue and doing it and closing it and pulling the next. And, it was like, just like soul crushing, I was just, they talk about sitting in a cubicle and, I didn't even have a window, and it was just like, I have to do more, and I felt I had children, I had I had a family, and I felt like it was my responsibility to continue. It's a very secure job. It's decent paying, great benefits. And it was like, I know I have to stay here at least, for the time being. And, that, like you said, that next generation mentality, my mom would say, you can't leave that job. That would be crazy, and I'm like, but I'm so unhappy. And so I'm like, I just have, and I would talk to my husband, and, I started, funny enough, and I know I've told you this, I got certified as a health coach because I've always been interested in health. And my son was born with a metabolic disorder, and he has to have a dairy-free diet. So I started digging into, dairy-free recipes, and then, learning more about dairy and just learning more about like what we put into our body and how it affects us. And that really set me down the motion of the health coach. But it just wasn't for me. But it led to the next side hustle and the next side hustle. And the reason those didn't work out is a story for another day. But
there's good stuff here.
What'd you say?
there's so much goodness here. Like this, your story, like, we definitely have to cover this
Yes.
more.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But ultimately, I settled on copywriting because it's something that is a great creative outlet for me. It is in the health industry. I'm very passionate about women finding the right people to help them on their health journey. And there's so much bad information out there that this feels really right to me, to the point where I'm now ready to build a life around building my side hustle, because has become like a really central part of like joy in my life. So that's my story.
I love it. And I love like the researcher in me is like, oh, this dichotomy, like your job was understimulating. Mine was probably overstimulating. Like and some people, like I work in finance. So like some people will be like, that's so boring. But I think for me, it was like, like I was just like too wrapped up in it and you were just too bored with it. And so it's like, now we're kind of like both converging in this space, which I just, again, like, I really feel like corporate companies should embrace more of people having autonomy and having their own life outside of work, because, it doesn't, I don't know, like I'm not less productive. I'm not doing my job. And I'm getting, I don't know, and maybe they do. Maybe some of them are okay with this, but I think, I don't know. I just think it's a nice way for people to get fulfillment, like better fulfillment out of their life. And obviously there's other ways to do it, like joining clubs and doing other, like having a hobby. Like we've turned it into more of like, a business, like a true business. But like you said, you started out doing it as a hobby, doing copywriting as a hobby. And I think that's amazing too. And you've also dabbled in lots of, you've got Airbnb, you've got other businesses that you've tried out, like you said, the health coaching. So I think it's kind of been, like that bug has always been in you for sure, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said, your job was your identity, I think I was searching for that because I didn't want my job was not my identity. It was contrary to everything I know myself to be. And so I was searching for that, like I need to do something that is aligned with who I am, because my day-to-day job is just not that. So
yeah. Well, and it's like everything in moderation. I just like, it's like mine was like too, you can overdo it. You can overdo the identity piece, and then it also can be underdone. Right. And so it's like meeting in the middle, having that happy medium.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always come back to everything in moderation. It just seems like the way to live life. So
yes, not easy, but
not easy at all, for sure. Yeah. So I think, that now like kind of that was like the journey to like how we got here. And now I think, what you and I, when we talk all the time, like it's that the ebb and flow of, really how do you balance like, these businesses that we love and still, we're not developed enough where we can like quit our jobs. It's not full, like the income's not there to support us full time. And so I think, I know for me, for sure, I really have the mindset is so important of how to manage those two things together. And so I kind of wanted us to talk a little bit about that, if you're comfortable with it, because I think, I'm sure that we're not alone. Like I'm sure that anyone on this journey has their days or their weeks where they're just like, I don't know, like they don't know how to manage it. For me, it's like, for a while, I think I'm in a better place now, but I was really like, this is hard because I want to go all in with a lot of things. And so anyway, I'll let you start. I've talked enough.
No, and I know we agree on this, because it's hard to log in the morning into my 9 to 5, knowing that I have a long to-do list for copywriting. And, but there are also days where copywriting feels overwhelming, and I welcome the break and I can dive into my mundane, my mundane 9 to 5 and kind of leave it behind. And it's like, when I do that, I find myself at the end of the day craving the copywriting again. So I've started to kind of look at it as one, sometimes a break from the creative. And also it fuels me. And we've talked about this before too. The paychecks allow me to take risks in what we're doing. I think it takes the pressure off. So I don't feel I'm the more I learn about business, the more I think too many times people make decisions out of fear. And I think that having our full-time job allows us to make the decisions that are going to make us happy. If I were to quit my job and do copywriting, I would have to probably take on copywriting jobs that I just didn't want to do because I would just need to make the money. And that's not why I'm doing a side hustle. I'm doing it for joy. And so when I log into work, I think I just take that approach as like, I have to put my all into this right now because this gives me the opportunity to do what I love outside of it. So, and I think a lot of people feel that way about their hobbies, and I've talked to people in my department because we share a lot of the same feelings about the job. And they're like, this fuels my hobby of, remodeling cars. This fuels my hobby of traveling, and so that's how I look at it now. And my hobby just happens to make money. So yeah, that's kind of my approach.
I think that's the healthiest one. And it's like one that my husband always reminds me of too. Like, well, and it boils down to like, it's the scarcity versus the abundance mindset. And because of these full-time corporate jobs, we can have more of an abundance mindset, which is really the best way that you should be approaching running a business in general, because like you said, and this is, as I'm on this journey of like doing sales calls with clients, like coming off desperate and being really needy and urgent never really works well. I love being able to go and do a sales call with a client and not feel like I have to close this sale or my livelihood depends on it. It will certainly, and I've talked to people that are full-time coaches or full-time business owners, and they're like, that's the moment that your life will change if you quit the corporate job, when the money isn't guaranteed, things will change. And I'm like, I'm sure, because I'm not there yet, and I've not been there, and I'm talking to people that are on the other side of it, and I'm sure there's some truth to that. But I also think like, I don't know. Like, I think personally, like this, sometimes the approach that we're taking sucks where you're still working full time. And I know you've even talked about this too, of like, because your husband's in business, he's a business owner. It changes, like you always find a way to make it work when you don't have that probably reliable full-time income. But I also just like that we're learning the abundance mindset now with having this full-time job to support us. So I don't know. I don't think we're doing it wrong. I'm also like, because I work in finance, I'm also risk averse in that way, where, to me, it doesn't seem smart to quit something that is providing you your livelihood. And I know a lot of people like quit their jobs because they're unhappy at work. I've just never been someone that can really do that. And so instead, my action was, because I was unhappy, it's like my action was like, well, I'm just going to take my skill sets and broaden those skill sets before I make any rash decisions, right? Like emotional decisions. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is the best way to approach. And I understand like if there's listeners out there that did the other way where they quit their job and then tried to figure it out, like I totally think that's awesome as well. I just think for like me, like right now, but there's downsides to it. And I think it's that mindset piece, like we were talking about, right? Like sometimes doing the full-time job sucks because you're like, oh, I've got like this creative energy and flow and I want to do this work for my side hustle, it certainly is challenging to manage that on a day to day. But I think if you are in this space that we're, in this situation that we're in, I definitely think having what Jaclyn was saying, like more of that abundance mindset, that appreciation, training your brain to be appreciative of that full-time job. And also, like, I mean, I don't know, like, I know that the people I work with at my corporate job are incredibly intelligent people. I've learned so much from so many of those people. And so I view it as like, I'm a sponge when I'm at work. Like, I get to learn new things from these people that I can apply into my business life, and vice versa. Like, I absolutely am bringing skills that a lot of people at my corporate job don't have. And I'm a researcher. And so I'm like, I'm living this small business life. Like, I have a lot to offer, and I want to spread that around because I want my company to be able to help those people too. So I think it's like viewing it as a two-way door is a much healthier approach than like that scarcity piece of like, oh, like, I don't want to give them anything, and I don't want anything from them. Like, they can't teach me anything else. Like, it's not healthy. Right. So,
right. Yeah. It's tough. And I feel like it's something we constantly talk about. So it's a muscle, I think, that has to be worked, because it's hard not to, something goes wrong and it's like, oh, I hate this job. I don't want to do this anymore. So it's hard. But yeah, just focusing on the opportunity it brings as a small business owner. That's the way we've been approaching it. So yeah, I think we're doing the right thing.
Agreed. Well, I think that's kind of it for this episode. Next episode, we are going to talk about productivity, which relates a lot to what we were just talking about now. Like, how do we actually truly balance the full-time versus the side hustle? So stay tuned for our next episode, where we will go deep in that. But I think for today, we just really wanted to talk about and acknowledge how hard it is to have, to do both things, to have to switch context constantly. I think about like someone like Elon Musk, right? Like, I know some people don't like him, but I respect him in some ways. And so I think, like, I know, like, I've heard that he like has a dedicated day for a specific biz, like, SpaceX or Tesla or whatever project, and that would be nice. And, we don't have the luxury, because we have to show up and think about the things for our specific corporate jobs, right? Like, we just don't have that luxury of compartmentalizing in that way. And so honestly, I think what we're doing is even, like, if we make it and we can survive through this and be successful, like, I think we're pretty badass. So
yeah,
you're out there enjoying what we're doing. I believe in you, because I think we can do it.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up.
I think so.
All right.
Well, 3 in the bag.
Yes. We'll see you all next time for talking about productivity.
Great. See you then.
Bye.